as he did fixing up the fat cow tax.
I call the honourable member Dr. Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a short call to reaffirm the Green Party's support for this bill, but to remind the House that our support is contingent only, and it is through support through to the Select Committee, and it is contingent on clarification of a number of issues. Very in brief, to review what this bill is aiming to do, to tighten the rules for deducting the cost of assets such as holiday homes and so on, change the way obviously livestock is valued, has been discussed here a little. Changes to GST, especially on the way non-resident companies can claim credits. Changes to the tax treatment of foreign currency hedging. Reduction to 4 years instead of 8 years for retroactive tax refunds claiming. Changes to the way some farm capital expenditure is accounted for. Clarification of the term dividend. And the removal of historic tax concessions to TY Point and one or two other companies. It's a complex bill. There are 9 regulatory impact statements. It's arguably, as New Zealand First said, tinkering at the margin. But its intent is sound to improve the New Zealand tax base. And yet it potentially puts the tax revenue at risk to the tune of perhaps up to $15 million, which is not insignificant. So we do need to be confident as a House that what we are doing here is worth it in terms of improvement to the legislation, to the law, tax law. We have specific issues of concern. We think the changes to the tax treatment of foreign currency hedging could open up further opportunities for tax avoidance unless the IRD commits more resources to monitoring and compliance. We think the IRD is perhaps passing the cost of foreign companies claiming GST refunds back onto those companies, requiring them to register for GST, rather than offering a more transparent and simple refund scheme, such as, for example, the British VAT scheme. We are concerned that participants in the government's voluntary bonding scheme may have, through oversight, gained a financial advantage if enrolled in a KiwiSaver scheme, and government departments are required to match contributions, and this match may not have been budgeted for. We're concerned about the reduction, as I mentioned, down to the 4 years for claiming refunds. I recall David Parker's concerns about what he called the rorting of the system for super yachts being taxed, which is an issue that should never have arisen in the first place. So there are a number of complex issues, and each one is not simple and needs to be considered in the Select Committee in some depth. Just to round off, I recall it's a broader issue. I think there have been various comments from opposition, both Labour and New Zealand First, that this bill, in a sense, holds up the mirror to the current government's overall economic policy and you might say, worldview. I think it was David Clark who lamented that this New Zealand government lacks a real vision of getting the economy back on top. I think that's fair comment. The answer was David Goldsmith's mercifully short defence of the bill, to the effect that it was building a more competitive economy. And it was going to do this by improving the tax system. How are we going to do that? How are we going to make a more competitive economy by just tinkering at the margin with this bill? It was Andrew Williams who noted that the balance of payments is in a mess, that the manufacturing sector is in crisis. And here we are tinkering at the margin with the tax improvement system. What we need to do, if we want to make our economy properly competitive, is to look to the underlying drivers which the government is claiming, 6 main drivers to improve the economy. They've omitted the fundamental drivers. which is that we are an inefficient fossil fuel-driven economy and we need to bring in adequate climate change policies that allow us to convert to a low-carbon, green economy. That's the main problem, not this bill.
I call the honourable member David Bennett.